It's just like, enjoy it, have fun, push it as hard as you can, give a shit, and just allow yourself to be a part of it and allow it to be a part of you. Wow. That was nice, wasn't it?
That was so good.
Hello and welcome to New Sounds Union, the podcast. Yes, this is the audio companion to your favourite new music site where we put the spotlight on some of the finest fresh sounds around. Every month, we'll chat with an underground artist about their creative process and life on the DIY scene. Coming up this month is a chat with alt rockers SUDS. First up is the music headlines. Today, we look at the unfortunate recent closure of the Moon music venue in Cardiff. The announcement came last November, the same week that Fontaine's DC rolled into town to play the city's mega arena. And that came just a few years after Fontaine's DC played their first show in Cardiff at, you guessed it, the Moon. The closure of small music venues is sadly all too common, especially in a post-COVID landscape. In fact, the Music Venue Trust recently reported that more than 350 grassroots venues in the UK were at immediate risk of closure, representing the potential loss of 12,000 jobs. Without venues like the Moon, bands such as Fontaine's DC simply wouldn't exist. The landscape for these venues is tough, so wherever possible, giving a bit of love to your local venue and perhaps taking a punt on an unknown artist can make a difference. And you may just discover your new favourite band. So, if you work at or run a music venue, we'd love to hear from you and get your thoughts on the current grassroots music landscape. Email us at newsoundsunion@gmail.com or say hello on Instagram or Threads. And now, let's listen to our tracks of the month. Every week on New Sounds Union's Substack, we share 5 tracks that have set fire to our ears, in a good way, of course. Here's a couple of our favourites from the past month. First up is Bling by DBLA. We had the pleasure of speaking to DBLA recently for our 5 minutes with interview slot on New Sounds Union. Do head over to the Substack to check that out. And Bling is 2 tight minutes of energetic indie rap mashup, and quite frankly, it's been a constant on the stereo since it was released. So here it is.
Yeah, but my phone let it ring off. Stay fresh, never been off. Shows over the rain, no spin off. Shows over the rain, no. Yeah, too many man crying, cause I've been shining, but I'm not taking my bling off. Taking my bling off. Taking my bling off, yeah. I could run this beat nice backwards. Want smoke, but I ain't got backwards. These little niggas, they're my sons, but they still wanna act like bastards. But they still wanna act all dumb. That's why they're little.
Next is the gorgeous These Words by Scottish artist Colin Manson. His warm vocals and finger-picking guitars have a hint of Jose Gonzalez via the west coast of Scotland, and on this track he sings with Billy Marie, and it's simply gorgeous. Here it is.
All these words you learned, you took and twisted them. All around your head, you spread them around the place.
Do subscribe for free at newsoundsunion.substack.com to receive 5 fresh tracks directly to your inbox every week. But now, here on the podcast, it's the main event. Here's our artist interview with SUDS. Let's go. SUDS are a 4-piece alt-rock band hailing from Norwich, made up of May, Dan, Jack and Harry. They released their fuzzy, ferocious and beautiful debut record, The Great Overgrowth, in late 2023. Combining fast and heavy guitars with some truly charming melodies, I had the pleasure of seeing them support the excellent Rat Boys a couple of years ago now. And the rest is history. To get us started, here's a little taste of Hard For Me by SUDS. today I'm joined by Jack, the drummer, and Harry, the bass player from SUDS. So welcome to New Sounds Union, guys. Thanks very much for joining us.
Hello, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
So yeah, first of all, we're kind of going to dive into your background and origins. And obviously, there's two of you, so you might have wildly different musical histories. But I suppose, what are your first memories of music, or maybe your first loves in music?
You've actually probably got the two right ones to that question, because me and Harry have been playing together since we were teenagers.
Oh, nice.
We've known each other for a long time. So we're in bands together growing up. But I mean, we didn't know each other when we were kids. So how far back do you want to go?
When you were teenagers, what were the bands you bonded over and were like, okay, we want to be in a band as well?
It sort of didn't really happen like that for us. Like, we grew up in Colchester and we've both been playing in bands on the Colchester scene. Two quite different style bands at the time. And eventually, after meeting Jack through playing gigs together, we asked him to join this sort of weird punk kind of band that we had going. And that's when we sort of really decided we all quite liked us to sort of piss about and play really heavy stuff and jump about and shout some songs at people. And that's, I feel like that was our first bonding moment. That.
So how many bands were there before SUDS as we know it now?
There was 3 bands before SUDS from over the course of maybe like 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. You two being the kind of constant factors in all of that.
The way it works, and has always kind of worked, is like a bit of a package deal. Whether people like it or not. Like, we met and played through Vera Loans, and then the band that I was in when I joined Vera Loans kind of like took a new life, and that started, and Harry then joined that band, and then the band after that was kind of like a reimagining of the first band we were in together, but with members from the band that I was in.
Oh, okay.
It was very Colchester, like everyone but like Harry said, 3 bands before that.
I'll have to get myself to Colchester. It seems like the hub of music creation. Yeah.
Maybe 10 years ago. I don't know about now. I'm out of the loop now.
Ah, you're out of the scene. What were the origins of SUDS then? How did that come together?
SUDS were a band before we were in the band. And I was living in Norwich at the time and was putting like shows on and working with a venue in Norwich. And we booked SUDS, the original kind of like lineup of SUDS for a show.
Yeah.
And someone sent me their EP that they had just released, which was the first one. And I was obsessed with it. I thought it was really great. I think it was like my most listened to record of that year, which would have been, I want to say 2018, 2017, something like that.
So yeah, high praise.
Yeah, and I went to see them, and then I remember going up to Maisie and Dan after the show and like fanboying a little bit and being like quite nervous and telling them how good I thought they were. And then 2 years later, so like coming out of lockdown. Oh, also like mine and Harry's old band, the one before SUDS, we did like a weekend tour across like 2 or 3 cities.
Oh, nice, yeah.
SUDS came with us and like opened those shows.
Oh, cool.
Like the original lineup. So we kind of knew them, but not really. And then, in 2020, I got a call from Maisie or Dan saying that they needed a drummer, and someone had said about me, and American Blondes, the band that we were both in, had kind of called it a day by that point. I kind of went in and was like, I'll play drums, but...
but only if...
This is a bit of a package deal situation. And I called Harry and said, like, I think we should both be in SUDS. And then we were.
And then you were, and let's never talk about the other bass player again, I presume. Just...
from us joining the band, kind of like, over the course of maybe 6 months, like we wrote so much new music that we dropped all of the old music, and it kind of took we kind of reimagined what SUDS was. It kind of became a different band that we joined.
Was there ever a conversation, we're a different band now, should we have a different name and all that, or was you kind of, I mean, SUDS is a good name.
We never questioned the name as such, but there definitely was like conversations where we were like, what kind of style are we now going into? Because I think me and Jack came from musically like very different backgrounds to what they came from. So it kind of became a thing that we like merged everything together and it created this new sound that we were like, oh, this is what SUDS is. So let's make sure, like, we want everything we had out and everything we're doing to like make sense to who we are now.
Were you coming from a maybe a heavier perspective, and that collided with something more lighter and more melodic, and that's because that's kind of what you hear in certainly the last record of yours.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. We both came from like punk bands and like both grew up listening to like emo records and hardcore records. So along with a load of other stuff, but I think us coming in personally anyway, like I really wanted to be in a Midwest emo band. So Maisy's an insane guitarist and like in terms of songwriting, and Dan's a Midwest emo fan. When we got there, it was like, well, can we swear on this? Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah, we can swear. Yeah. Producer just pops up. Yeah, we can do that.
I won't swear.
Well, I suppose that, once you ask the question, it might lose its impact. Like,
but yeah, when we got there, it was like, well, this is perfect. You know, like Maisie emo is like in her blood. Like that kind of like Midwest sound is in her blood. She grew up listening to pop punk records. So we were like, cool, let's just write more emo music.
When it comes to songwriting, are people bringing songs to the room and then you're building them out, or are they coming from just you four being in a room and being like, what sound do we make now?
Mainly May and Jack will write the music, create this idea of a song and a verse and a chorus, a riff and things like that.
Skellington, right?
Yeah. We will bring that into a studio and like really start to like flesh it out. Like everyone will start picking up the pieces. We build a structure and sort of figure out how we want it to sound, you know, whether it's like a slower one or a heavier one, things like that. And then eventually as a band, it will become the full SUDS song. But it definitely starts with one person, usually in a room with a little guitar.
Yeah, some kind of core idea at the very least. And then when it comes to the actual recording of it, how did you go into a studio, or did you do some bits at home, or a bit of both?
So we had the EP in the Undergrowth, and then the album, The Great Overgrowth. Both of them we recorded with a guy called Ian Sadler in a studio down like in Kent. I mean, The Great Overgrowth was a challenging one for us because we basically wrote it in a month.
Oh, wow. Blimey.
We just really booked the recording time, got in there, and we were just like, right, we've got a month to make this album what we want it to be. And so we wrote a lot of it and really just hammed out as much as we could as quickly as possible. And then we did like 4 or 5 days in the studio and recorded it, which again was a high pressure.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, we weren't after that.
If you're a band recording an album, don't do it in 4 days. It sucks.
That's your first advice of the podcast. We'll take that. Yeah,
that's the only advice I have.
Okay, fair enough. Did you then go and stick anything on top of it at home? No, that was what you recorded in those 4 or 5 days. Was what we hear.
The only thing on that record that isn't recorded in the studio was Cal Hudson's part, the feature on the Great Overgrowth song. We knew that there was going to be a feature there, and that song especially was written incredibly last minute. So I had that guitar part before we went to record. We had no vocal melody, no lyrics. So one night in the place that we were staying, you wrote the vocal melody for the chorus, and then I wrote the lyrics. Well, we both wrote the lyrics for the chorus, and then the verses. The day that we recorded the vocals, I was sitting in the van outside. Maisie was sitting in the studio while Dan was recording guitars, and Maisie was like singing melodies to try and work out a melody for the verses, and then would run out to the van, sing it to me, and then I would like write the words, and then like run a line back, and then she would take it. Like, okay, and then we wrote the verses like that. And I found the notebook actually the other day of when I wrote those lyrics, and it looks like I'm going through something real bad. Like it's just like scribbles frantically, crossed out stuff quite aggressively, and then like another line, and then the whole verses are there, which is cool. But Cal wrote that verse. We didn't write that verse, and he recorded that in his house, and then Ian just like put it in.
It does sound slightly chaotic, but also slightly fun, and you got your steps in while making a song. So
we did.
you hit many points. And I hear you're writing new music at the moment. Is that following in the same vein of studio time booked already, or?
It was meant to be something that was like we would set ourselves like a really big, nice open time to write and sort of get really into that process and give ourselves a lot of time. And then we're like, let's book studio time for I think we started about August, didn't we?
Yeah, the original time was like, yeah, we're going to record this thing in July, August. And that didn't happen.
Yeah, we recorded in like 2 weeks, and it's been very much the last couple of months have been very focused album writing, because that time before we, I don't know, we kept ourselves busy with other things.
I mean, like this year's been a funny one because the last 2 years we've toured like a stupid amount, realistically, and the SUDS writes, like, we write really quick when we want to. The problem is that I feel like because we all subconsciously know that the writing happens very quick. Like when an idea comes into the room, we can usually flesh out a song, within the hour or so. As soon as we decide that like the writing process has started, it kind of like flies by. And yeah, we've written the whole album more or less in the last like 2 months. I mean, I would say it's done now in terms of writing.
Yeah,
the crux of it are done. And yeah, like Harry said, we go away in a week and a half to record a new record, which is, I think, an exclusive.
That is an exclusive, depending when this comes out, of course. But yeah, we'll take it for now, right now. Are there kind of any dramatic or non-dramatic shifts in the style of song, or the tone of the music?
Sort of yes and no. Like, I think it's very much, it is still very much sounds like SUDS. It's a continuation of the last album to a degree. Since we wrote that album, recorded it, we've done lots of tours, we've got lots of new influences, and we generally has grown as a band and as individuals and as like friends. And so it's sort of taken on a bit of like a new life. We understand what we're going for a little bit more. So I feel like we sort of maybe have more like control in this album. Like we there was more of an idea in our heads before we sort of started writing.
Which always helps, I think.
Yeah. I think like, it does sound like SUDS, but it is different, I think, in a way. Like there's definitely stylistic themes that are different. I think we've leaned heavier into certain elements of the first record. I would say there's songs on the last record that didn't really come back as an influence. Yeah, it's definitely different. And every time we write a new song every time we have written a new song over the last 2 months, I think we've all been very excited by it, which was not as much of a thing on the first album. It was just like, we need to write this album so desperately. And yeah, it was just so quick that you didn't really have time to appreciate the songs. It was like, let's get them written, get them recorded. Whereas on this one, I feel like I'm really able to like take a moment and be like, well, that's great. I'm really proud of that. Or like really think about our individual like instrument parts, So yeah, maybe it's not
that. Well, we'll find out in the months ahead, I'm sure. But no, I think it's definitely a good sign if you're excited in the room, because otherwise there's probably little point continuing maybe with that song if it's not like ticking your boxes from the off. Well, let's hear some of that songwriting in action. Let's listen to a bit of Paint My Body by SUDS. So yeah, your first record was released via the independent label Big Scary Monsters, which is a very great name for a record label. I suppose, how did that relationship form? And what were the benefits? What were the maybe things you found difficult about releasing a record via a label?
I don't know how much you know of Big Scary Monsters, but they've been around for a while, like for quite a long time, and they are responsible for us anyway, like some of the most important records in our lives. We grew up like loving that label. they played a big role in people like American footballs over here, UK label for American football, and but like Slaughter Beach Dog, which is like the offshoot of modern baseball, and but they were a big deal growing up, and even if it wasn't bands that necessarily signed to Big Scary Monsters, they played a big role in like getting them over here and doing stuff like that. So when we joined SUDS, the conversation had come up of like, yeah, in an ideal world, maybe in 4 years' time, we'll send something to BSM and like maybe they'll pick it up, and maybe they'll listen to it, and that would be great. And then I don't even really know how it came about, but we had some friends in Norwich, a band called Other Half, who are like phenomenal, signed to BSM maybe like a year before we did, which was huge for like our local scene in Norwich, and then just generally huge, And then we also played with Lakes, who are like another BSM band who had been around for a while, who we all really like. And then we released a single for the EP, and we got a message on Instagram from Kev, the guy that runs BSM, literally just saying, "Do I have to wait till the EP comes out, or can you send it to me now?" And I was like, I shit myself, and was like, "You can have my house, dude. Like, you can have it." So we sent him the EP, and then that was kind of it. Like it was a very quick turnaround. He listened to the EP and then said, "Can I give you a ring?" And I was at work. I was like in the middle of nowhere doing something for the job I used to have. He called me and was like, "Yeah, so we've got like this 12-month plan for SUDS. If you're interested?" And he kind of just like laid everything out like in that moment and was like, "We want to do the next record. We want to put the EP out. So don't release the EP when you said you were going to. Like, we'll put it out digitally. We'll put the album out next year." And I mean, the big question was like, "Do you have an album ready?" And we were like, "We'd know. We've just recorded an EP." We had no songs for the album at that point. And then that was in the start of December of like 2022, no 2021.
Honestly, I have no idea.
So yeah, it would have been the December of 22, yeah. And then we kind of like worked everything out over the course of December, and then January we wrote the record, and then February we recorded it. So in terms of like how it came about, that was it. And I think a lot of it to do with us playing a lot, just booking shows on our own and getting to play with like Lakes, and we played a lot with Other Half at that point, just on the local scene. And then yeah, the rest is history.
So do you think getting your name out there and playing a lot of gigs essentially is good advice for any band, really, in terms of raising awareness?
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And like, I think it's important just to like be a part of it. Like, don't just go and play a show, pack up and leave kind of thing. Like, we always made sure that we were there to like, I mean, really, we were there to enjoy it and make friends and be part of a scene that we wanted to be a part of. And I think that was such a huge part of it for us, like meeting Lakes and really getting on with them and hanging out with them, like really getting on with like Other Half and just tons of different bands. It's like, okay, like this has been really fun. Let's play together again. And like, I don't want to call it networking because that's not really like what we were doing. Like we weren't like, that wasn't our only focus, but it kind of works out that way. That when you're just hanging out with people, having a good time, playing shows together and making friends, like you create this little community that. I think that's such a huge part of like gigging and getting your name further forward.
And of SUDS as well, like just the MO of SUDS, I think we have always really wanted to meet other bands and hang out with other bands. And we've been really lucky in the last, 2 years because we've got to tour with some of our like favorite bands. Like we played one show of Spanish Love Songs in, I don't know when that was, man. When was that? At some point before we toured with them. It was like the May of the year last year. we played one show at the Lexington with Spanish love songs, and then it was their warm-up shows for Slam Dunk, and then they asked us to play that full UK tour with them, which was 2.5 weeks long, and SUDS had never played a venue bigger than 300 cap, and all of a sudden, we were playing like Electric Ballroom and Manchester New Century Hall and all these venues, and like we don't understand why we're there. I think the thing that we do love is that we got, the thing we always walk away from a tour so stoked about is like having spent 2 weeks with like a new group of people that we all friends. And I think we've walked away from every tour we've done really feeling like we've made like friends. And I think that's been a big MO for SUDS is we want people who come to the shows to feel like they're our friends, and we want the bands that we play with to feel like they're our friends. And so I think other half have a saying where there are two sayings, I guess. They love a saying, that band. One is play it like you mean it, and the other one is like give a shit. And I think like that was something for me that really stuck, like, and being close to other half and the three of them, like, and especially Alfie, their drummer, he really made a point, I think, when we were talking a lot, when we were together, and Cow as well, I guess, of just saying like you just really have to give a shit about this stuff, because you don't always have someone booking your shows, or you want to turn up and really give a shit about what you're doing, because not everyone does, and it's up to you to bring that, and I think as long as people see that you do care, then I think you're onto a winner. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people just do it and they act too cool to be there, or whatever, whatever the reason. And that sucks. It just brings the vibe down. Like, if you get there and everyone's just really stoked to be there and hang out and play a show and do this thing, then like it's the best thing in the world. I think the only thing that ever ruins it is if people act like they don't want to be there or they're too cool to. Even if there's no one at the show, everyone in the band is stoked to be there, and you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, that's really heartwarming to hear, because I think you do hear a lot about, is there still community, especially in kind of, DIY underground music scenes. But yeah, it sounds like you've both found one, but also really actively helped to cultivate one around you as well, which, as you said, takes effort, and it takes giving a shit to make that, because what you give is kind of what you get back, I suppose.
100%.
Yeah, if you give a shit, then people are going to give a shit about you. Like, it's kind of how it works. Like, you can only take what you give into it, and what we found is that when you do give into it and you do like push for that and you want to create this like friendships around you, like it's incredibly like rewarding in so many ways.
Moving to kind of more release strategy then. So obviously having the label behind you definitely helps. Did you go into the last record with kind of like a particular strategy in terms of how you were going to market the record and get in front of people's faces, as well as doing gigs? And do you think that will change when you do release new music in the year ahead?
We're really lucky. We've got like Kev and Josie at BSM who run that thing, that are just great to talk to as well and to bounce ideas off. And I think we knew what the singles were going to be. We knew like the order in which they were going to come out. The album had like a concept to it, and I think we kind of wanted to show that through the singles that we released. But to be really frank, no, there was not a marketing. I think we just wanted to get it out. I think we knew, and BSM knew, that the way that we were going to get people to listen to the record is if we toured and played as many shows as we could in the right places. And I truly think that that's the thing that sells you. I think that, if you tour or play shows as much as you can, and again, we've been very lucky to play the tours we have and to tour as much as we have. I don't doubt that for a second, but I genuinely think that's been the thing that's driven us forward as a band is the fact that we've toured as much as we have, and we've said yes to pretty much everything that we've been given or offered. We basically all had to find jobs that allowed us to tour. You have to accept the fact that you're going to be away a lot, and we have been. We've been away a lot, and next year we're going to be away a lot probably. And you have to kind of just accept that that's gonna. If you want to do this thing, then that's what you're going to have to do. So, in terms of a plan or a marketing plan, not so much, but an idea of what we needed to do to get people to listen to the record. Yeah, I guess we did. We did have an idea, but that was just to make fucking candles and go on tour loads, which is two things we do.
I was going to ask you about the candles, because you do sell candles. Yeah.
Damn right we do.
Are the candles big seller on the merch stand?
Yes. Wild.
It is genuinely wild how many people buy candles at
I,
shows.
I don't get it. I think it's amazing that people, because we make all those in house. They're all made in house.
Oh, nice.
Like,
So every scent's different.
Not quite that. But, I make the labels, and then the girls make the candles themselves with like essential oils and like the candle. I don't know how they make them. They make candles.
They make it in half or something like
that. Yeah. It's wild. But all of our merch, bar the t-shirts, is made in house. You know, we make everything ourselves. So, but the candles is a wild thing. There's quite the industry for it. It's quite the market for candles. People
I mean, it's pretty unique. I don't think I've seen too many merch stands with candles on. Yeah, t-shirts, vinyl, expected. Scented candles, maybe not.
People dig it. We try and change it up every kind of, I don't know, 6 months to a year. Like, we'll do like a new range of scents, and
oh wow,
just did a new range for the new album that's all kind of inspired by stuff off the new record, like the first record, and we'll probably do new candles for the second record.
Yeah, well, definitely. It sounds like they're a hit. And I suppose you touched upon the difficulties of being in a band, especially in the modern landscape, where even when you're doing some really good tours, you're not necessarily bringing in loads of money. So you've got to find a job that can still bring in money, but be flexible around these tours, which I suppose is one challenge. But then is the merch, I suppose it's not bringing in loads, but it's just helping keep the pot slightly, keeping the meter running a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not, with every tour we still lose money, and we've done that a long time ago. But it does it's quite nice when you get like a good merchant. We all have like a little bit of a little jump for joy together, and then it's like that's our Toby car we pay for tomorrow.
The petrol isn't coming out of our pockets tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's coming out of the candle sales.
Small wins, yeah.
Exactly.
The little win. Touring's all about little wins.
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely those support slots. It worked for me because that's how I discovered you, which was great, and that was a great night with you guys and Rat Boys. I think it was the O'Meara in London, which is a really, really lovely venue as well. So I'd recommend any listeners to check that out. But always, I suppose it just reinforces the message: go see the support band. If you're going to see a band you love, get there an hour early, because you might find your next favorite band.
100%. Yeah, and those bands, a lot of support bands go a long way to support bands they love, and it takes them a lot to get there, and usually they're not being paid very much money. I mean, a lot of main bands aren't being paid a lot of money either, but a lot of support bands get paid a lot. And if you're already going to the show, then it's just like, just go and see them. It could be great. We've seen so many great support bands.
So in terms of tips and tricks, what would you say is working for you as an artist in the modern world?
I genuinely think what's so important is that, first of all, you just got to love it, and you just got to throw yourself into it as much as you can. Don't make yourself homeless for it or something like that. But you got to give as much as you can. Like, I think I've lost about 3 jobs because of this band, I think, and
yeah, me too.
sold my car and bought a van, and then sold that van and bought a bigger van just so we can be comfortable on tour. And we've all sacrificed a lot of stuff to make it work. And it's like, if you want it, you got to go and get it. And we've all accepted that, okay, we really want this, so we're going to throw everything we have at it. So for me, that's a real huge part of getting to where you want to be. Obviously, a massive part for us is luck, and we will never not say every time we walked into a venue with Spanish love songs, and it was I remember walking to Manchester, which is a massive 2,000 cap room. We stood at the back and Spanish love songs were sound checking, and we were like, we shouldn't be here. This is wrong. But it's I don't know. For me, it's you just throw everything into it and you just enjoy it. I couldn't imagine doing it with anyone else than these these guys because it's like the best friendship. We all love each other. We all like just want to have a good time together, and like that's what drives the band on. So it's just like enjoy it, have fun, push it as hard as you can, give a shit, and just allow yourself to be a part of it and allow it to be a part of you. Wow, that was nice, wasn't it?
That was so good.
Yeah, I mean that was very good advice.
I think just also like to get to where you want to be, SUDS aren't, we want to do well and we want people to listen to the record and see us live, but we've never really been a band that's striving for like crazy success. Like I think like we make the sacrifices we do and push ourselves as much as we do, which is quite a lot, especially over the last 2 years. We've really had to like take a lot of hits to make this happen, and we do that so we can just continue to do it. Like that's what we're striving to do, is like be in a position where we can keep touring and keep making records. And if it stays at this level for all of us, then like I think we'd all be quite happy. Like obviously playing bigger shows, selling more records is killer, and you make all those sacrifices because you go out on those tours and you meet all these new people, and that's the addictive part. Is like the experience. So that's why we make all the sacrifices all the time, because it's like, well, if we could just keep doing this and keep going on tour and keep meeting all these bands that we've like grown up listening to, then like this is worth it. Like that Rat Boy tour was a good example. Like Rat Boys were the first band that I sent Maisie when I joined SUDS. And was like, this is what I want to do. Like this kind of stuff. And then I got to sit behind a merch desk one night with Julia and just like ask her every question I had about the first record. Very niche, probably quite annoying questions about like, what does that song mean? What does that lyric mean? Referencing that book. And there's things when I was at 18 that I wanted to ask her, and we're sitting there, or like being at that horrible punk club in Manchester with the whole of Spanish Love Songs, and then like Will from Creeper. You're like standing around in a horrible punk club in Manchester, and all of us are like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, why? It's so wild, but like that was the most fun we'd had, and it's like little things like that. We brought our parents into Electric Ballroom to come and look the day we sound checked, and they got to meet everyone, and we got to bring them into the venue, and like that was huge for us, So it's those things that we're striving for. It's those things you make the sacrifices for, And then we're the headline Coachella, and then we'll do it.
We're waiting for that offer. It's coming.
Yeah. The next support is Charlie XCX, by the way. That's another exclusive.
Brilliant. Second exclusive of the night. I like it. You're very much, obviously putting so much of yourselves into it, but in a kind of an authentic way. Like you've got your groove and you're plowing into that essentially. And because you're doing it authentically, I think that resonates as well with when people hear the music and see you live and speak to you at the merch stand, probably.
I hope so. Yeah. I think, we really want people to come and feel like they're kind of in on something. That's always kind of been the MO. Like when people come to shows, feel like they're hanging out with like friends. When we play live, we've known each other most of our lives, and May and Dan have known each other for a long time. And like we all are very, very close. And, we want to, when we come on stage, we don't want to put on like a persona of we're this like mysterious bullshit emo band. Like we're idiots in the van and like constantly make jokes and take the piss out of each other. So why would we not bring that to stage so people feel like they're in on that?
It's great because like we played a show in Norwich a little while ago, and I can't remember what I kept. I don't know why, but I think I kept saying "have fun" to the audience.
Yeah, you just kept saying the words and have fun.
And we was in a pub like a few days later, a week later or something like that, and this guy sitting across on the other side of the pub just turned and shouted "have fun" at me, and I was like, "That's great."
He's like, love
yeah, it's like have fun. I was like, all right, cool, I love that, and that's what it's about. Like he clearly enjoyed it. He was in on the joke and was like a part of it, and that was like that just makes it so much nicer. And I love it. Yeah.
I mean, that's a new T-shirt idea, surely.
I'm trying. I'll sell it to these guys.
It's on the list. Harry's idea list for t-shirts.
Yeah, it's not. I have one of them yet, but I'm working on it.
We've been trying to put "Honk If You're Hard for Me" on a t-shirt for years. It's not working. A bumper sticker, yeah.
Honk if you're hard for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's maybe still an industry for bumper stickers. I'm not sure. As a car driver or a non-car driver. Definitely. We ask all of our guests to recommend a song that they've been enjoying by maybe an artist that other listeners might not know of. So yeah, can you let us know what yours is, please?
Yeah, we picked the new Pet Symmetry song. Pet Symmetry is a kind of supergroup of sorts in the States. Yeah, it's Evan from Into It Over It. And then in terms of people we know in the band, Evan from Into It Over It and Marcus from Rat Boys is the drummer of that band. They all like know each other for a long time. And I love that band so much. And they've just released a new song called, I think, Big Steve. And yeah, it's just so good. Like, I think Evan's writing. Into Over It are a ridiculous band anyway. They're like legends in our scene. And then Marcus is drumming. Personally, it's so inspiring. When we played with them, I just spent like every night just like standing on the side of the stage, just staring at him. And they're a band also that I think are a really good example of people that when they play together, when you watch videos of Pet Symmetry play, like they did an Audio Tree session back in the day. They just look like they're having the most fun all the time. And look like they all really want to be there. And both those bands, like those corresponding bands, Into Over It and Rat Boys, are also like that. You know, you can see how tight those guys are as friends when you watch Pet Symmetry. And that's something that I find really lovely. But the records are also like, they rip. They're so good. So yeah, that's what we picked.
Well, let's have a little listen to it now. Well, thank you so much for joining us on New Sounds Union. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to hearing new SUDS in the year ahead, really.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, thanks, Andy.
You've been listening to New Sounds Union. This has been a Glow Bureau production. Join us next time for more music news and another interview. Thank you for joining us.